Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here with both Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones recording on a Sunday before the Hawks' final week of the regular season. Uh, Welcome to you both, but welcome to you, Glenn. It's been a while. What are your impressions of what has happened in the Hawks universe since you last were with us?
Oh man, I was over in Europe, so I didn't see any games while I was there. I didn't have any access to that. Watched the Nets game on the airplane flying back. The Delta's Wi-Fi is not the best, but did what I could do. But I mean, they continue winning games. They continue playing well. Seemingly, I can't really kind of speak to the games I wasn't able to watch, but
Okay.
4 games this week. They're all important. A 3-1 outcome might be good. We'll see if that's something they can pull off. The Knicks are a tough matchup for them. The Knicks have a ton of size, a ton of physicality. And we've talked about the fact they're going to encounter that in the playoffs, depending on if they match up with Cleveland or where things fall. It seems like they're probably going to end up staying in fifth, I would think. But yeah, Knicks, Cavs, Heat. That's the rest of the schedule there, and each game will be important.
What did you think of the Nets game, Tyler?
Um, they kind of took care of business. Uh, Picked up their defense in the fourth quarter, though. I don't think their defense was necessarily that bad in the first three. They just took it up another level in the fourth. The bench unit, I wouldn't even necessarily say struggled, but you clearly see without Landale, and I talked about this on Blue Sky on Twitter, like the biggest thing they're missing without Landale is his screening. And so that's why I think this Tony Bradley pickup is pretty good for them. But overall, like that game, wasn't really much to take away from it. Uh, Kispert had probably had one of his better games, though, defensively at least. Give him that, but he shouldn't be in the rotation. Like these next couple games, Hawks got to win at least. Probably got to win. The magic number is two to not be in the play-in. They need to win these next two games here, or two out of the next four. So Kispert shouldn't be in the rotation. Is kind of still my takeaway.
Yeah, like in that Nets game, they had 35 points off turnovers. Like Dyson and Nikhil were just fantastic. Like they just you give them inexperienced ball handlers and it's just going to be a long night for those young ball handlers. And so the starters accordingly were just a lot better than the bench, even though as you said Kispert played well, but I like what you said. Like it's if you look at the numbers, Kuminga is a lot better next to Landale than he has been next to Moget. Like it's just night and day the way those lineups have worked. When he's been next to Landale, those have been very good lineups. It's versatile. They get rebounding. You 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 get like you said, you get the screening and you know, Landale's just kind of a space eater. Like it's not the same with Mo. Like he can cover up for you defensively, but it's just going to be that much harder uh matching up physically against the more physically dominant team. So it's hopefully Landale comes back healthy, but in the meantime, they need to be exploring how to be physical in his absence. Um, but yeah, let's talk about Tony Bradley because that's a an interesting acquisition. What do you think the Hawks have there, Glenn?
Well, I mean, he's a veteran who knows how to play. He's got all the basics covered and very fundamentally sound player. I think he's a completely capable second center for you on the team. It'd be interesting to see how much playing time he gets if they're going to kind of try to navigate this week. Um, avoiding the play-in, they'll get a break if they win enough games to avoid the play-in, they'll get a break. So maybe they might push the minutes a little bit. But he probably needs to play all four of these games to get ready to be playable in round one of the playoffs. So I don't think they have the option of not playing him. He needs to get into the system, get into the scheme, all that sort of stuff, and get those reps. So I think it's a great ad. I think he's a good backup center, really good backup center. I think he's going to help him. He's just, he's very sound fundamentally.
What do you think of the Tony Bradley thing? Was there a better option out there, Tyler?
I don't think so. I I said they need to sign Bruno Fernando, but I think Tony Bradley's just flat out better than Bruno. Uh, but my thing is with how good the Hawks perimeter defenders are, it kind of helps. It really behooves them to have like a big bodied center, just to be able to simply box out the bigger centers in the league. Like that's on defense. That's really what they need their center to do more than anything else. They don't necessarily need them to rim protect, though Tony Bradley's okay in that area. They really need him to physically keep the other big centers off the glass so that the other guys can re fly to the ball and rebound it. So like I think that's going to be his value. Um, I I I think he should get the backup center minutes against, especially against the Knicks this upcoming game, to neutralize, Mitchell Robinson. Because like that, if you take that away from the Knicks, their Mitchell Robinson advantage, and force force them to have to, you know, have Cat play center the majority of the time, I think the Hawks went out there, with that exchange. So it's just you miss the physicality with Landell, and you're hoping Bradley can. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I was surprised that Bradley was available. I didn't realize he hadn't been on an NBA team since he got waived from the Pacers. So, um, I think it's just a fortuitous pickup for the Hawks, and hopefully he can provide that element of know where to be on offense, know what to do on offense, because he has been in the Hawks scheme, and then defensively, really just make sure you keep the other big guy off the glass, and play good drop coverage.
Yeah, and just to recap a little bit, Tony Bradley has played for Quinn Snyder before with the Utah Jazz. He started last season coming off the bench for the College Park Skyhawks. The Hawks were, I think they were using like Mo Gay and Chris Silver together in the starting lineup, and Tony was coming off the bench, and I think he was kind of dealing with a knee issue. He eventually ended up signing, I think probably started with 10 days or something, but he ended up signing with the Pacers through the duration of the regular season, played with them through the playoffs. He, I think if you compare him to Christian Coloco, Mo Gay, Bruno Fernando, people were in my mentions about Bol Bol and Chris Boucher. Like I think if you compare him to any of those guys, like he compares favorably as a defensive rebounder. Like it's just not even a comparison to most of these players. Like because of what you said, you just need the physicality and the size. You need somebody to box out. Like it's just going to be different with Bradley in there than with somebody like Christian Coloco, who's going to have the advantage of being more familiar, being around the team up until now, but like the physicality is just not there. Like it just doesn't work. So, obviously it's going to turn back to Landale when Landale's healthy, but in the meantime, this feels like the best option they could have possibly gotten. Do you have any thoughts on Eastern Conference Player of the Month with Jalen winning
Uh,
it?
I thought Jalen. It's fine that he won it. I thought Nikhil would have been a better option, but it could have been a situation where, because I'm pretty sure how it works is the Hawks nominated two guys for the honor, and then
Right.
I'm pretty sure what the NBA is thinking, looking at, is that Jalen Johnson's probably going to be on an All NBA team, and we got to reward a Hawk. And unfortunately, Nikhil hasn't. He didn't make an All Star team. He's probably not going to make an All NBA team. If one Hawk is going to win a Player of the Month award, it probably should be Jalen. And also, Jalen probably should have, like, Jalen had a better argument like in December when he averaged a triple double, but
Right.
unfortunately, that coincided with the Hawks completely collapsing without, uh, a backup center. So
Yeah.
I think that also played into it as well. It's like they rewarded who's had the better season between the two.
Yeah.
Uh, though I thought overall Nikhil on merit should have won the award. I didn't have a problem with Jalen winning it.
Do you have thoughts on that one, Glenn?
No, I mean, it was fine. Nikhil had a great. I mean, Nikhil's been playing great. He's just been playing so well. But I mean, Jalen's the one getting triple doubles. Jalen's, I think they kind of look at, statistically, that Jalen was contributing as a rebounder, as an assister, et cetera, and that's was what made his case a little stronger than Nikhil's probably in their view. But I mean, can't say enough about how well Nikhil's playing, regardless.
Yeah, it's kind of a points, rebounds, assists kind of award, and it's kind of
Mm,
a superstar award too. So
Yep.
it's not any massive surprise. And what Tyler said about, Jalen having a previously strong month that was actually better than this one, like I agree with that. But it's the first one of these ever won too, and for somebody that's clearly
It's
deserved it
also,
before,
and
and
Kevin, it's also the first Hawk to win it in like what 10 years since.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, all right. If we're gonna reward a Hawk, we're gonna reward who we feel like is going to be the best player or the better player. And so that's where I think it's granted it should have been only for the month of March, but I think it was a cumulative like a bunch of factors that were like, all right, we're gonna give it to Jalen because again, it's probably like Jalen's almost certainly going to be on the All NBA team as well, and they want to reward that. With the Hawks having the best month for Eastern Conference team in March.
do you have any thoughts on who the Hawks should want to play in a first round playoff series? And looking around the East, and I know that they've kind of taken measures like such as, for game 82, everybody plays at the same time. Like the entire Eastern Conference will play all their games at once. But do you think that there are any East teams that are going to be trying to, sort of rejigger their standings so that they get the opponent that they want?
I mean, I think they match up better with Cleveland than the Knicks. The Knicks, Tyler's point earlier, Mitchell Robinson is a handful on the glass. He's a great offensive rebounder. He works really hard in those phases. And the Hawks are, they're set up to play kind of five out. With Anyaka. It'll be less of that with. Jock can obviously shoot the basketball 2, 4, or 5. Tony Bradley's not a jump shooter, not a 3-point shooter. So it'd be interesting to see how they adjust scheme when he's in the game, presumably a little bit there. I think they match up better with the Cavs. I mean, I've been trying to watch the Cavs in the last 2 to 3 weeks just because I feel like that's likely going to be the opponent, and it's kind of funny to watch them because I mean, when Donovan Mitchell's not on the floor, like James Harden just like kills their offensive he just destroys their offensive process completely. And he's just dribbling the ball the whole shot clock, the whole possession. And, when Mitchell's in there and Harden's off, the ball moves like that. And that's what Kenny Atkinson wants his team to do. But when Mitchell's off the floor and Harden's there, Harden is just owning the entire freaking whole shot clock, and no one else touches the basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to navigate that in a playoff setting. The Knicks I think are tougher. The Knicks are. I mean, the Hawks. I mean, everybody targets Jalen Brunson, defensively, much like we saw for years with Trey, like on the Hawks, right? So that's a thing. But 2 through 5, they're pretty big. Outside of him, they got big physical team, et cetera. So I think the Cavs, Cavs have little injuries, kind of they're working through as well. So I just feel like the Cavs are the best matchup for them.
What do you think, Tyler?
I think they match up pretty well against both teams. Honestly, I think the Knicks' biggest issue is their most used lineup, which is their starting lineup, has not been good this year. And like that's something the Hawks are going to destroy. Like just the theory, like it's a math problem for the Knicks. If they're going to start games with Brunson, Hart, Bridges, OG, and Karl Anthony Towns at center, like I expect the Hawks starters to just destroy that lineup. And until they make an adjustment, it's going to be a bloodbath. I expect something similar on Monday, unless if they play, some things might happen. It might not turn out that way, but just overall, like the trajectory of the lineups that the Hawks are playing compared to the Knicks playing lineups that clearly do not work and have not worked for 2+ years now. Um, I think is a massive weakness for them. That said, on the other side, you have Cleveland. They have the fundamental issue of their two best offensive engines are guard-sized players, and the Hawks have probably the two of the best perimeter defenders in the sport. And like they're comfortable not giving up any advantages to those guys, combined with their centers aren't super physical. They're more of a skill-based team, and I don't know if they have anybody that can match up with Jalen. Like I think Jalen's going to be a real problem for them. Uh, he's consistently gotten to his spots against Evan Mobley. Oddly enough, that even included his rookie season when he like absolutely tried to detonate on him a couple times. So I think Jalen has a familiarity with Evan Mobley. Kongu's kind of done well against the Knicks. I mean, against the Cavs throughout his career, he's done well against the Knicks too. So it's just I think they match up well with both teams. I mean, the truth is, with how well the Hawks are playing, they match up with anybody. So that's where I'm not terribly concerned of who they play in the first round. Um, I'm just, what I'm hoping for these last four games is that they win they win the games they need to win. They or either they win these games or they're competitive, throughout. But more importantly, they're not getting injured, right? So that's kind of the big takeaway. Like they do need to win at least two of these next four here, but more importantly, like I just don't want to see anybody get hurt like Landale did, because that sucked. Like we talked about it last time, Kevin, but like it just sucks. It's a high ankle sprain. I'm expecting him to be out of the first round completely. So they're gonna have to hope that Tony Bradley's up for the challenge. That's kind of probably the biggest thing I'm looking for in these next four games. I think he needs to play in these four games, even though Mo. It's not like I don't want to be like, all right, so you're saying motion play. That's not true. It's just more Quinn's got to see what he has. Quinn's got to see what he has. I think he tried it with Koloko, realized pretty quickly Koloko is not on the level of what they need because he's for all of his like rim protection. They don't really need rim protection as much as they need a big bodied, wide guy to take up space on both ends of the floor because they have the perimeter defenders now. Before last year and basically every year in the Trae Young era, you needed that the center had to do everything defensively. Now that we just need Clint Capella. So it's kind of funny how they've figured out a roster for Clint, though Clint offensively was I don't think would fit what the Hawks want to do with dribble handoffs and stuff like that. But like it is kind of funny that they built the perfect team for Clint Capella, and unfortunately, or he's making good money in Houston, but he's not here anymore. So it's kind of if I'm Clint, I'm kind of frustrated. Like, man, if I had these perimeter defenders, I people wouldn't be dogging. We wouldn't have been dogging them so much. So uh, that's just kind of a funny aside.
So the Hawks have 4 games left, and somebody already said it. It's New York, Cleveland, Cleveland, Miami. With the two middle games with Cleveland, like how much do you see of Cleveland? Like with them being I don't want to say locked into the 4 seed because they're a game and a half behind New York at this point, but at some point, I think maybe they know their fate. Do they pull back at all, either in terms of personnel that they're trying to save up? Do they pull back in terms of, hey, we don't want to give away too much of our innovation because we might be seeing this team for 7 games in a row? Like, is there anything that's going to happen weirdly just because we're so close to the end of the season and it might be a Cleveland Atlanta playoff series 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to watch the way teams navigate the last week of the season. Um, in terms of guys are hurt, want to keep them off the floor, let them recover. And so teams are going to make interesting choices about trying to kind of get ready for a 7 game series. Presumably, especially the teams that are 1 through 6 right now. You got Detroit and then Boston, right? And then New York, Cleveland, Atlanta. I think Toronto's 6 right now. I think, um, because I think Philly lost last night. So,
Right.
but it is interesting it is this last week of the season. Everybody's tired, everybody's on fumes. It's a grueling week. You're gonna play 4 games in 7 days. That's a lot of um exertion, that you have to kind of navigate through the week. And teams will make interesting choices around who they're gonna play, who they're not gonna play, things like that to kind of get ready for a 7 game series. So just the last week is always just a little bit weird in that way in terms of do Cleveland want to try to get the 3? Would they rather play Toronto than Atlanta? Atlanta's been winning a lot more consistently than Toronto has of recent. Toronto's still a really good team, but they have their own injury issues they're working through as well on their side too. So just be fascinating to see like who goes all in, who goes half in, game to game. It's the last week is always a little bit weird like that.
Do you think that there's any funny business? That's probably too strong of a word, but like, do you think there's any weirdness in terms of how Cleveland goes about these 2 games with Atlanta, Tyler?
I'm I don't know what Cleveland. I mean, I could see them resting their guys if they lose on Wednesday, because it probably almost assuredly guarantee that they're going to be the 4 seed. Um, just because I think the Knicks have a game up on them. So I think it just depends on what happens these first 2 games here. If the Hawks win both games, I'm not sure, you know, if the Cavs are going to try on Friday. So it's just going to be based on incentive. Like, do they have anything to play for? More or less is going to be the question. But the Cavs would have to lose out for the Hawks to overtake them for the 4th seed.
Yeah,
That
I
is,
don't think they have the schedule for that. Like, they've got at
yeah,
least 2 guaranteed wins.
yeah. So it's just like if that's not going to happen, then they might punt, the Friday game anyway. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't see much of anything else there. I'm more interested in see who's going to like who could potentially catch the Hawks if the Hawks do backslide here. Who could potentially catch the Hawks? The Sixers and Raptors weirdly have a tough schedule as well, but let's see if the Celtics have anything to play for. Uh, all things considered, they might do some stuff, but at the same time, the Celtics are so deep, and they probably still want to get Tatum into a rhythm for the playoffs that he's going to play during these games. So uh, that might decide some stuff. I think the Hornets might sneakily get there, and they have a chance to overtake the Hawks even if they go on another run here, which they have the talents of all the teams behind the Hawks. The Hornets are the team that I think have the like explosiveness to really overtake them in the standings here and like go on another like 4 or 5. How many more games go undefeated for the rest of the season? And if the Hawks have some slippage, they can pass them. I think the Raptors and the Sixers, just based on their play, I'm not like I just don't think they're consistent enough to win the type of games they got to win to overtake the Hawks here. So it's behind the Hawks that I'm more concerned about. But again, I think if the Hawks take care of business here, Uh, I think they have a good shot. They're 4 games, 4 playoff teams, 4 good teams, or I mean 3 good teams because they're playing the Cavs twice. At the same time, I think the Hawks are playing the best basketball out of all of them, so they should have the advantage there. So if they can get a split, if they get a split, they're not even playing. That's more important because they need they're going to they're going to absolutely need that week to see where Lando is, to see honestly where Kaminga is as well, and also the other guys, because they've been getting after it, playing playoff basketball more or less since like what 2 weeks ago. They've been like in playoff mode. So it'll be good for them to if they can take care of business this last week to get that week off before the start of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you that like the scariest team out of all the, teams in contention below the Hawks, like the Hornets are the scariest, but I think it would be hard for the Hornets to catch the Hawks just because it's a 3 game lead with 4 games to play, so it's pretty tough. But you made a good point about the Friday game with Cleveland because I think they lose. The funny thing is like if the Hawks lose Monday, that means the Knicks win, and that means the Knicks stay that much further ahead
Right.
of Cleveland. So like if the Hawks lose Monday, it might be that Cleveland loses their motivation to go all out on Friday. And it's kind of like a safety blanket in that regard. So it really does seem like the Hawks are well poised to be in the top 6. And that's just such a huge difference maker because if you do that, you basically get a week off, right? Your last regular season game is on a Sunday, and then I think the playoffs maybe start on the next Saturday or Sunday. So like you're getting like 5 or 6 days off to rest up and get ready for your playoff series, which is just so different than trying to scrap through or playing nonsense. Well, all right. Is there anything else here that we need to be tackling that we haven't tackled?
I don't think so. Three wins would be very helpful. We'll see. I think they can handle Miami, I think, but the next game will be I think a close game all the way through. I expect that to be really competitive. And then in Cleveland, we'll see what they're doing, see who they're playing, see who they're not playing, see what they're prioritizing. It'll be interesting to see across those 2 games what they do on that side.
Tyler, anything we left out?
No, not really. Let's hopefully they just close out these games healthy. Um, it would be interesting to see, how the Hawks and Knicks, play on the court. I just like to me like the Brunson is I guess it's going to come down to Brunson Dyson Daniels matchup in particular. So that's going to be fun to watch and it should be a good game.
All right. Well, welcome back, Glenn. I appreciate you both taking the time to do this, and it's going to be a very interesting week. And good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.